When 68-year-old Ethan Matthews, a retired firefighter from a small town in Oregon, started eating 2 eggs every morning, he had no idea what would happen to his body. For decades, he'd been told by doctors and morning talk shows that eggs could clog his arteries, spike his cholesterol, and put him on a fast track to heart disease. Stick with oatmeal, they said. Avoid yolks like the plague. But Ethan was tired, physically and mentally. He lacked focus, felt drained by noon, and his memory was slipping. So, on a quiet morning in early March, he made a simple change. 2 eggs. Every single day. Nothing fancy, just a couple of poached eggs with a dash of pepper. What happened over the next 30 days stunned even his skeptical wife, Charlotte. His energy surged. His joints ached less. He could remember names again. No more awkward stutters in church or forgetting the neighbor's dog's name. At his next checkup, his doctor looked at the blood work, raised an eyebrow, and said, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Is it possible that this humble food, once vilified, holds the secret to sharper minds, stronger bodies, and a longer life? Press 1 now to find out what really happens when seniors eat 2 eggs every day for a month. The results may surprise you. For Ethan Matthews, the shift began on day 5. Up until that point, breakfast had always been an afterthought. Some toast if he remembered, or black coffee on days he didn't. But after committing to 2 eggs a day, something changed. On that 5th morning, as he stood sipping coffee beside his backyard bird feeder, he noticed something strange. He wasn't tired. In fact, he felt alert, clear, present. By day 7, Ethan started waking up before his alarm. No more groggy shuffles to the bathroom or afternoon naps that bled into dinner. His mind, once fogged with forgetfulness, was sharpening like a blade. He found himself finishing crossword puzzles again, remembering appointments, cracking jokes that made Charlotte laugh like she hadn't in months. Skeptical but curious, he started reading more about eggs. Turns out, they're packed with choline, an essential nutrient for memory and cognition. And the yolks? They were loaded with vitamin D and B12, both critical for brain and nerve health. Suddenly, all the warnings from the 80s and 90s about cholesterol seemed outdated. But the real test came when Ethan's son Ryan, a nutritionist living in Seattle, came for a weekend visit. "Dad, your posture looks better," Ryan noted at dinner. "And, are you glowing?" Ethan laughed but showed him the numbers. Lower blood pressure, improved HDL cholesterol, and 5 pounds lost, without dieting. Ryan was floored. By week 3, even Ethan's joints were looser. Decades of stair climbs and emergency rescues had left his knees creaky and inflamed. But now, he was gardening again, climbing up ladders, moving like someone 10 years younger. Could it be the anti-inflammatory effects of omega-3s found in those golden yolks? Then came the moment of truth, his annual checkup. His doctor, a straight shooter who once warned him off bacon and butter, stared at his lab results for an unusually long time. "Ethan," she said, "I've never seen this kind of improvement without medication. All from 2 eggs a day." The world had written off eggs as a cholesterol bomb. But for Ethan Matthews, they turned out to be a lifesaver. And this was only the beginning. By week 4, Ethan felt like a new man. He was more active, more cheerful, and even started volunteering at the local community center again, something he hadn't done since his back surgery 5 years ago. Everyone noticed the change. His neighbors commented on how vibrant he looked. His granddaughter Lily loved that he could chase her around the park again. Life felt full. But then something happened that made Ethan question everything. One Sunday morning, as he prepared his usual poached eggs and toast, he felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. It was sudden, like being punched from the inside. He brushed it off as indigestion and went about his day. But the pain returned that evening, sharper and more persistent. Charlotte insisted he go to urgent care. The physician ran blood tests and performed an ultrasound. After a tense wait, the doctor entered the room with a concerned look. "We found something, Ethan. It's your gallbladder. It's inflamed." Ethan was stunned. "But I've been eating clean. Just eggs, veggies, whole grains." "That may be part of the issue," the doctor said gently. "Eggs are healthy, yes, but they're also high in fat. If you already have silent gallstones, even healthy fats can trigger flare-ups." It turned out Ethan had been living with minor gallbladder issues for years, undiagnosed and dormant. The higher intake of fats from the eggs had agitated the condition. Luckily, it wasn't serious enough for surgery, but it forced Ethan to reevaluate. Not everything labeled healthy is one size fits all. Back home, he was quiet, frustrated, conflicted. How could something that made him feel so good also cause internal stress? That night, over herbal tea, Charlotte reassured him. Maybe it's not about eggs being good or bad. Maybe it's about listening to your body and making small changes. Ethan didn't stop eating eggs, but he did reduce the yolks to 1 per day and added more fiber to balance the fat. Within days, the pain vanished. His energy stayed. It was a reminder, even health journeys have curveballs. But that doesn't mean you stop walking. After the gallbladder scare, Ethan began to see things differently. For the first time in years, he wasn't just thinking about what he was eating. He started asking why he was eating it. At breakfast, instead of just cracking 2 eggs like clockwork, he paused. Was he hungry? Did he need both yolks? Did he want to feel energized? Or just full? He wasn't abandoning eggs, far from it. But he added mindfulness to his morning. He began pairing 1 yolk and 1 whole egg with a bowl of steel-cut oats or some avocado toast. He started walking after breakfast instead of flopping onto the couch with the news. Little shifts, subtle ones, but they made a difference. And then came a conversation that would completely shift his mindset. While at a senior wellness seminar hosted by the community center, Ethan listened to a speaker, Dr. Camille Reyes, a geriatric health coach, talk about bio-individuality. The concept? That no 2 people process food, stress, or exercise in the exact same way. You can eat the cleanest diet in the world, Dr. Reyes said, but if you're stressed, lonely, or disconnected from your body, you'll still be sick. It hit Ethan hard. For years, he'd focused on numbers, cholesterol, weight, blood pressure. But he hadn't really addressed his emotions, his routine, or how little attention he gave to joy. Yes, 2 eggs had jump-started his energy, but it was his attention to how his body responded that created lasting change. He joined a local walking group, found a buddy to attend Tai Chi classes with, and even started journaling. Not just about food, but about gratitude. He felt less alone, more alive. And slowly, he began to realize something. The egg wasn't the magic. He was. 2 eggs a day didn't cure his fatigue or reverse aging, but they gave him a reason to pause, to take inventory, and to reconnect with his health. Not out of fear, but out of respect. And that, more than anything else, transformed Ethan's life. Ethan didn't expect much when he filled out the health questionnaire at the community center's wellness fair. It was just something to pass the time while Charlotte browsed the herbal tea booth. But a week later, he got a call. "Mr. Matthews, we're starting a pilot program for active aging, and we think you'd be a perfect fit." It was a partnership between a local health clinic and a university's nutrition research department. They were studying how small dietary changes, like daily egg consumption, affected seniors' long-term wellness. Most of the participants were in their 60s and 70s. A few had chronic illnesses. Many were dealing with fatigue, memory lapses, or muscle loss. Ethan signed up, unsure what to expect. But what started as a food tracking app and bi-weekly check-ins quickly turned into something more: purpose. He began mentoring other participants, sharing his story about the eggs, the gallbladder wake-up call, and how he learned to tune into his body. He became the group's unofficial egg coach. Even the researchers joked that they might name a nutrition module after him: the Matthews Method. One day, he met Amelia, a 72-year-old widow who had lost her spark after her husband passed. She confessed to Ethan that she hadn't cooked for herself in months. "What's the point?" she'd say. Ethan looked at her, smiled gently, and said, "Start with 2 eggs. Not because they're magical, but because they're manageable." 3 weeks later, Amelia was emailing the group egg recipes. She'd joined the walking club, and Ethan realized something powerful. The egg wasn't just a source of nutrients. It was a gateway, a small, consistent act that opened the door to bigger, deeper healing. The program ended after 90 days. Ethan's lab numbers had improved even further, but more importantly, so had his confidence, connections, and quality of life. What began as a personal experiment became a ripple effect. One breakfast multiplied by dozens of lives, transforming mornings into momentum. And for Ethan Matthews, that small opportunity, 2 humble eggs, became the start of a brand new chapter. Ethan Matthews wasn't just feeling better, he was becoming better. Before the egg experiment, he often joked about being just an old guy with a toolbox and a recliner. But something inside him had shifted. It wasn't just the nutrients or the stabilized blood sugar. It was the way he began approaching his life, one mindful moment at a time. He started his mornings with intention. Gone were the rushed cups of coffee and mindless scrolling. Now, each day began with a simple ritual: boiling 1 egg, poaching another, slicing up an orange, and sitting by the window to eat slowly, sometimes with Charlotte, sometimes with a journal. He gave himself space, not just to eat, but to feel. He began noticing things he hadn't in years: the way the morning light hit the maple tree outside, the softness of Charlotte's laugh when she read the comics, the quiet satisfaction of making it to the end of a crossword puzzle. People around him noticed the change. At his church, someone said he seemed lighter. At the hardware store, the clerk asked if he'd been on vacation or something. Even his grandson Jack, who once only knew Gramps as the guy who fell asleep mid-movie, now wanted to FaceTime every week. But Ethan's greatest transformation wasn't physical. It was the rediscovery of his curiosity. He started learning about nutrition, not from fear, but from fascination. He read about micronutrients, gut health, even enrolled in a free online class about food and aging. Charlotte teased him, calling him Professor Protein, but he loved it. For the first time in decades, he felt like a student again, alive, engaged, and capable of growth at any age. His past, marked by sirens, stress, and sacrifice, was no longer the only thing that defined him. Now, he was a teacher, a mentor, a living example that reinvention is possible. All from 2 eggs and a decision to try. By the end of the month, Ethan Matthews wasn't just healthier, he was renewed. What started with 2 eggs a day had led to something far more profound, a total life reset. One quiet Sunday morning, as the sun filtered through the kitchen window and steam rose from his coffee mug, Ethan sat with Charlotte and reflected aloud. "Can you believe it?" he said, stirring a bit of honey into his cup. "All this change from something so small." Charlotte smiled, placing her hand over his. "You didn't just change your breakfast, Ethan. You changed you." That afternoon, Ethan walked to the town library. In the corner of the community board was a flyer. "Local voices wanted. Share your wellness story." He pulled a tab, tucked it into his wallet, and smiled. Maybe his journey could inspire others. Not because he was extraordinary, but because he proved that ordinary changes, done consistently, could lead to extraordinary results. He later stood in front of a group of strangers at the community center, sharing his story with a room full of silver hair, skeptical eyes, and folded arms. By the end, they were nodding, smiling, asking questions. One woman even wiped away a tear and said, "I thought it was too late for me, but maybe it's not." That moment struck Ethan deep. It was never about the eggs. It was about the choice. The willingness to believe that a small step could be the doorway to something bigger. He wasn't chasing youth, he was chasing vitality. And he found it not in a gym, not in a prescription bottle, but at his own kitchen table. 2 eggs, 1 intention, and a man who decided his story wasn't over yet. Because in the end, it's not about food, it's about hope. And sometimes, the smallest habit can become the spark that reignites an entire life. Ethan Matthews' journey proves a timeless truth. Change doesn't require a revolution. It starts with a single intentional act. In a world overwhelmed with diet fads, conflicting health advice, and loud promises, we often overlook the quiet power of consistency. For Ethan, it wasn't a trendy supplement or expensive superfood that changed his life. It was 2 humble eggs. The real transformation came when he began paying attention to his daily choices. He didn't wait for a crisis to force change. He responded to the subtle signals his body had been whispering for years. His story reminds us that age is not a barrier. Mindset is. Whether you're 38 or 78, there's always room to reconnect, relearn, and revive your energy, purpose, and health. Sometimes, the spark you need is sitting on your breakfast plate. If you're over 60 and wondering where to start small. Add 1 or 2 whole foods to your day. Replace processed breakfasts with 2 eggs, boiled, poached, or scrambled with veggies. Notice how your body responds over time. Track your energy, mood, and sleep. You don't need perfection. You need patterns. Start a gentle walk after breakfast. Join a community class. Learn something new. Your brain, heart, and muscles crave challenge and care. Above all, don't wait for a wake-up call like Ethan's gallbladder scare. Choose wellness before illness chooses you. And remember, every morning is a fresh chance to say, "Today, I take care of me." Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and share with your friends. Your support keeps these stories alive. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if today's story touched your heart, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Take care, stay well, and see you in the next story.